Happy New Year and happy Wednesday night. Welcome to Deep in the Plus. If you haven't been with us before, Deep in the Plus is where we go deep into the Disney Plus catalog. We find a movie or a TV show that we want to talk about, and we talk about it. So tonight I have with me my very favorite buddy. It's Patrick Atkins.
Hey,
How's
happy
it going, man?
New Year! Woo!
Thanks, buddy.
So
You
excited.
too.
Look, I
And
got a new munchling right there.
where is that?
Another one right there. I got Crush, and then Bullseye.
Yeah. So yeah, this was not show and tell tonight, buddy. I'm sorry. Was that?
It's all
That's
about the munchlings. This is not munchling the movie.
No, no, Munchling the movie. For the
Mm.
love of God, no. Let that never be a thing. Um,
I hope it is.
yeah, well, I mean, maybe, but yeah. And if you haven't been to WDWNT TV before, please give us a follow, a subscription, and give us a like tonight, as people can find us a little bit more easily. Tonight we're going to be talking about a little ditty that Pixar put out last year called Elemental. I can say last year, right? I mean, it was
Yeah.
2023 and we're
Yep.
like 4 days into 2024. I can say that. Elemental was the second movie that they've had in the theaters since that little COVID thing that people keep talking
Mm.
about. It was a weird time, man. You know, back in the day,
Yeah.
Pixar was like one of these. They were bulletproof. They could just release anything, and people would just go, give me more. Like Pixar was the best. And then I feel like it was around the time of Cars 2. People were like, are you sure you know what you're doing? And then I think Good Dinosaur was probably the one where they were like, well, I guess, even Pixar can fail sometimes. And ironic that that was also directed by Peter Sohn, who directs Elemental. That one, that's an unfair thing though, because that one changed directors and it was kind of all over the place. So this is the I feel like a big deal to have this in the theaters, and it's actually the first one in a while that's made any money. Can you name the last five Pixar movies?
I have the list in front of me. I'm
Well, then
prepared
just
for
talk
tonight.
about them.
So I think we've been on a pretty difficult run of Pixar films since Coco. Coco is arguably the best Pixar film. Then you go with Incredibles 2, which a lot of people were waiting for a long time, kind of fell flat. Toy Story 4, please go watch the episode and ask Desi about Toy Story 4. I loved Onward, but that speaks to who I am and my life circumstances. There's Soul, Luca, Turning Red, Lightyear, and Elemental. Um, Soul Onward had the distinction of being released on March 6th. Soul and Luca and Turning Red got dumped straight to Disney Plus. They are getting theatrical releases. And then there was Lightyear and then Elemental. Lightyear again was direct to streaming, right? That didn't get it.
Lightyear was theaters.
Yeah, it should have been direct to streaming, but I am 100% going to go support my favorite in those mix, and I'm going to go see Turning Red in the theater. Um, I
I
feel
don't
like there's
disagree with you. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I think Turning Red's the best one. Uh, it's a lot of as the kids say mid offerings and not what we expect from Pixar.
Please don't, just don't embarrass yourself. I agree with you. I think of the last five, Turning Red is probably my favorite. Um, but then, we did a Pixar ranking, you and and
We
I
did.
got smashed for putting Up further down than it should have been and Lightyear higher than it should have been. And I qualified it at the beginning and said, hey,
Yeah.
it's because Up is so freaking sad that I'm just like,
Hmm.
I don't want to rewatch it. It's like I love the characters. The story is solid. The animation is fantastic. The voice actors, everything in Up, but it's just so sad. And so I don't like to subject myself too many times to the sad things.
No.
So anyway, but to that point, I don't know. I think there was some missing. That's an essential piece of a lot of the early Pixar is that
Yeah,
tragedy, that
loss.
sadness.
Loss. So as I was getting prepared today, I was like, oh, what is the list of Pixar films? I'm pretty sure I remember the last few. And right underneath in Google results, list of Pixar films is list of Pixar deaths. And I think loss has long been a tool that the Walt Disney Company has used to great effect. I mean, a long time ago, there was a poll of the biggest villains in movie history, and man, just mankind from Bambi for murdering Bambi's mom was up there. it's something they use and abuse and know that they have the power to manipulate people with. See Big Hero 6. Um, and I think that's actually something that's missing from this movie.
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah,
Yeah.
there was almost a formula to everything that would happen in a Pixar movie, and Lost was definitely one of the big ones. That like it
Yeah.
was a very like deep thing. Some of the more artsy movies, like I feel like Ratatouille is kind of that way. I feel like Wall-E is kind of that way. You have strong emotional bonds because of the tragedy and the journeys that these characters go on. So I don't know, like if as we talk about this, a lot of spoilers, but I mean the basic gist is that these two a couple who are renamed Bernie and Cinder come from the fire country and they come to the big city and start a life, and it's very similar to Peter Son's actual life, where his parents came
Yes.
from Korea and came to New York and started a grocery store and a business and wanted a better life for their kids. And so the struggle really would have been like, let's see what happened to Bernie and Cinder to get where they were. Like, I
Oh.
don't think there's
Hmm.
enough of that to show exactly how much they gave to make Ember, who is
Interesting.
our lead character,
Interesting.
to give her the life that she has. I think that would have given us some of that like harsh tragedy. We see a little bit of it in a flashback with Bernie and
Yeah.
him saying goodbye to his father and kind of like there's a little bit of that, but I think that would have given this a little more depth right out of the gate. We do get to see the beginnings of their life coming to Element City. So I don't know. I just feel like there
Yeah.
are some aspects of it that are very different. And so, as we talk about this, the one thing though that I cannot escape, and I have to get off the table right away, Zootopia, dude. How is
Yeah.
this movie not feeling like a carbon copy of Zootopia minus the love story?
It feels like Zootopia and also Inside Out. The color scheme is very, very similar to Inside Out. It's very much the same palette. And yeah, it feels a ton like Zootopia. Even the modes of transportation feel like Zootopia. I think that's one of the things that disappoints me about this movie is that there is a story to be told here, but it's lost in the weeds. Um, a lot of what we're dealing with is we're seeing people who are coming from marginalized groups and they're getting a chance to tell their story, and it might not be a story for you or me, but it could be something to relate to, and it's an authentically American experience. I really think it just gets lost in the shuffle and bogged down in what basically feels like Tutopia. You see what I did?
Yeah,
Tutopia.
yeah,
Yeah, that's clever.
Tutopia,
First one to do it.
Tutopia.
Tutopia.
Yeah. No, it is almost too similar. I mean, there's the train and the big city that's a melting pot of the different types of elements instead of different types of animals, and things are built specifically for the different types of elements. The one thing that they do kind of show in this is that like the first wave of elements is water, and then the second wave is like the earth, and then the third wave is are the clouds or air, and that the fourth wave is really the fire, and those are the ones that we kind of focus on here. So the entire city is made in such a way that it's not favorable to the fire. And it kind of it combines this combination of not only you know the generations that came to America, but also the idea that the earth is mostly water, and so things are very tailored towards water in this society, and they are the haves in this. They're the like the upper crust or the water folks because they get whatever they want, and then mainly the people in Firetown are just kind of fighting for whatever they can get, and they have to put up umbrellas when the train comes by, and no one really cares about how much water is flooding everywhere except for the fire
Yeah.
people. So
And one of the things that
there is a
my
deep level
my
to it, is
wife
what I wanted to go with.
yeah, one of the things my wife pointed out is that all the elements seem to be able to coexist together. There's no other issues in relationships with, gas and water, earth and water. It seems that just fire and the other elements have a hard time mixing. The social commentary is a little bit heavy-handed there, but yeah,
Right.
it goes different levels.
Yeah, no, I do absolutely think that that's there. And, in watching, there's actually a companion documentary that goes along
I
with
was
this with
gonna
Peter
turn it
Son.
on, but I
Yeah.
didn't. Did you watch it?
I did, and it's called Good Chemistry,
Yeah,
and it's basically it's
yeah.
called like the making of Elemental, but it's really more of a biography of the director Peter Sohn and his family, and I guess it's trying to compare the struggles of his family with the struggles of Elemental, and he says it's not autobiographical, but it's based on. Okay, it's a very similar
Yeah.
story to that. So when you see that, there's a lot more of his life than there is necessarily like a behind the scenes of Elemental. It sort of just shows how he got to be where he was in this one. But anyway, so the good chemistry is something that if you loved this movie, you may go back and watch it. It's about 45 minutes, and it dropped I think around the same time as
And,
Elemental did on here.
and as you know, the length is what turned me off. I was like, I already watched this movie. It was pretty long. I don't want to invest another 45 into this.
43 minutes, no thank you. Um, yeah, and something else though to catch in this is the story seems very basic and simple. There's not a big villain per se. There's not like
Well,
we talked about the
it's been the
tragedy.
same villain for several Pixar and Disney movies in a row, and it is generational trauma. And the inability of the older generation to kind of adjust and see what's going on. I mean, it's generational trauma. It's Mama Coco. It's um, Abuela. It's
The
Luca's mom and
villain
dad.
the
Yeah,
villain
it's
is
the villain.
generational trauma.
Yeah, the millennials are writing movies, and you should all know how you've treated us.
Well, I can't wait to see the meet and greet for that one. I but again, like okay, I get the symbolic villain, but there's not an actual villain in this.
No,
And
no.
so, but
Crumbling
but
infrastructure? Is that what it is?
but Wade, who is our leading man, to Ember,
Yeah.
who is our leading lady, or actually our lead character,
Yeah.
Wade is awful at the beginning. Like I want to punch him with the whole thing. So,
Really?
uh, are you kidding me? The
Go
whole
into
inspector
that.
thing?
I want to know. Yeah, he's just a guy doing his job.
I don't know. It's just he seems to be unsympathetic completely to her and turning a blind eye and not giving it a second chance. He's like, "Well, I got to report this. You got 47 violations. Bye." And she's like, "But it's gonna ruin our store. And can't you give me a second chance?" And he's like, got to put in my paperwork." And she's like, "You're gonna like kill my dad
Yeah.
basically if
All
this
right.
happens." And he's like, "Well, things are things." I mean, I just that to me was so
Things are
frustrating.
things.
And then at the
Yeah.
very end, after he like puts in his report about how there's so many violations in her dad's shop that it should be shut down. She goes, "No, my dad built that shop from the ground up, and he wanted me to take it on." And he goes, "Well, you should have told me that before, dude." She was telling you that the entire time, and then he's like, "Oh,
All
well, we'll
right.
take you down and let you." Yeah, that man, that was just like I'm
Okay,
like,
I can
really,
see how
dude.
that's frustrating. Yeah, I get it. To just be, especially water so malleable, he just wasn't showing any flexibility at all. The beginning does
No,
have one of my
no, no,
favorite bits.
no
What?
dad
It was
jokes.
good. No, I got a whole book of them around here somewhere. My favorite part though in that beginning is when she's the big terrifying wall of fire separating him from City Hall, and he goes, "You're really gonna hate me for this," and just drops into the sewer. I was like, "All right, that's a good joke. That's a good visual bit."
Okay, well, so as I watched the whole movie, and then you had thoughts that you texted me, but I don't know
I
them.
did.
You were like, I have
Yeah,
thoughts. I'm like, well, can't wait for
yeah,
Wednesday night.
yeah.
I saw this movie in the theater and walked away with
I
it
think I
thinking,
did too. I think I saw it twice in the theater actually.
well, I walked away from it thinking the animation was very well done. I started thinking about how hard water was to animate. Water and people were really hard to animate computer animation wise when computer animated movies came to be at first. That's one thing that I saw a lot of behind the scenes stuff about that said, hey, water's not easy to do. And then Nemo came around and there's a whole digital movie underwater.
Yeah, like yeah, we
This
got we
this
got
was
this.
this was a whole new problem with water and it taking
Yeah.
shape and doing things. So I remember it being very visually pleasing. And I remember thinking, great to see a Pixar movie in the theater again. I feel like I was a little more critical this second viewing.
I totally agree with you. I think that being in the theater and seeing a Pixar film, especially one this is utterly gorgeous. We can talk about how the palette's basically stolen from Inside Out, and that it visually reminds us a lot of Zootopia. It is still just beautifully, like every bit of animation really pops. They did a great job with the animation on this, and the soundtrack's good. So when you're in a movie theater setting and you're immersed in that environment, you tend to overlook some of what might be some of the flaws of the film, which I'm sure we're going to get into as we discuss it further.
Yeah. So I agree. So again, along the lines of Zootopia, this whole world is sort of built to to the specs of these characters and what they need and how things are have to be in their world, right? And there's the big train, which again is very Zootopia-esque. But for some reason it spills water everywhere. That's its great feature. But one of the things that I notice when I see things like this, and you go out of your way, Zootopia, Inside Out, anywhere like that, you go out of your way to build a world. I need to know the rules. I need to know the rules.
Wow.
And
wow.
in this one,
great point.
In this one, the rules are weird. Like, I don't know that they're actually fleshed out enough for me to know what, like when her grandmother dies in a flashback because her grandmother was like, "Mary, fire!" and then she like bursts. I'm like, what kills her? Like, how does fire just, like, if it was slowly burning out, I would get that. Or water. Like, how does water?
She was just ash, and they swept her up.
I'm not trying to be dark about it. I'm just saying I need to know the rules, right?
Yeah, we don't really know what the rules are here, because we see fire get splashed, but they're able to refuel by adding more fuel to the fire. The call nuts.
Right. That's exactly. But that was going to be exactly the example I was going to use. Is that like in this scene, the mom gets spilled on with water, and it's like, "Oh no, I'm hurt." He's like, "Oh, here's a stick," and then she's like, "Okay, cool, I'm better." Is that
fuel,
like
give me fire? Give me that which you desire.
Okay. Is it about drive? Is it about power?
I don't know. I think you're right. One of the things that's my biggest criticism of this movie is it's not really well fleshed out. There's not a lot of movie in this movie. It's the same plot that you've seen 100,000 times. It's West Side Story. It's Romeo and Juliet. It's fish out of water. But yeah, we don't know the rules of this world. Like, does fire have to stay in their little area sequestered? Does fire get jobs? Or are they only jobs that support other fire? Because it seems like everybody else is hanging out together and fire is really just kind of kicked to the side. And how do people die? Because water turns into a gas. It doesn't ever, you can't create and destroy matter. It's just there.
If we've learned anything from Journey of Water inspired by Moana, is that there's a cycle to it, right? So obviously, that's the thing. Well, you make a good point about Firetown. Firetown is where Bernie and Cinder, they travel to America, Element City. Sorry, they travel to Element City, and they go into this city, and every place they try to go, they're shunned. And now I'm thinking, Mary and Joseph, like, she's having a baby. She's having a baby. No room in the inn. So exactly. But everywhere they try to go, it's like, ooh.
I'm like, oh, that's familiar.
Right. So they go. You said, but you said they go to Firetown. But when they get there, it's not Firetown. It's
not Firetown. Yeah.
It's like Moss Waterville. Like, right. I mean, this is there's not. They make it Firetown. And then I guess everybody else comes. And I've never thought about that before. Like, I don't think there was officially a Little Italy. I think it just kind of like somebody came and then somebody else, and then they just built it up, that kind of a thing. So, it's they have the baby, they start a store, and then this whole thing comes around them. I saw some conversations in the chat where somebody was like, "Oh, it's Amber. No, it's Ember." But both of those could have been correct because there are so many little like element jokes along the way in this, because
in this film make me want to punch myself in the face. It's
that's what I was getting at.
and worst
Cinder,
naming convention. Those are
Bernie,
fine because there's a point to those
Ember.
names. That's very much the Ellis Island experience that a lot of immigrants who came into this country, you know, experienced. So that's cool. I get it. But like everything else, Wade, Marco Polo, oh God in heaven, have some respect, Pixar.
What about the Goblet of Fire? Tell me that doesn't
From
look
here,
like the Goblet of Fire from Harry Potter. No? Okay.
see, it gave me really like Southeast Asia kind of like Pacific Island vibes.
Tiki mug.
Yeah,
There should be a tiki mug of that. Also, but
you know,
but even in
we'll
but
talk
even
about it
in
because we always do. Is that like we'll get to like the summary of the film and everything. But
sure.
man, this is ripe for a theme park, huh?
Sure. I mean,
Yeah,
at least like setting up a Bernie's like the fireplace shop, like where you could buy these things. That would be kind of cute. Um, but the Firetown itself has all of these little joke signs, and I almost feel like they
yeah.
spent more time working on all of the little joke signs and things than they did an actual plot. No?
The stupidness of it all, and then I'm like, all right, I guess they have fireworks and that's a shop, but how many times a year do they need fireworks? Are fireworks food? Are fireworks entertainment? Are fireworks your relatives? What's happening? And how do all these businesses sustain? Because aside from Claude and a couple like logging trucks, we don't really see a lot of other people come into Firetown. Also, Claude, are you serious? Couldn't
Claude, man. Hey, speaking of things
great
that are
character, great
yeah.
character, really
Speaking of
funny.
things that are frustrating, this little dude who's like, "I'll take the free one." Have you ever worked in
The
retail and
fact,
had somebody like this and just wanted to
yes.
punch them, and he just keeps
Do you know
taking
who he?
it, and he's like, "I want the free one. The customer's always right." And then you just are like, "Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
really?"
Do you know who he looks like? He looks like the kid from Meet the Robinsons.
Yeah, he does. I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah, he does.
that was
Um,
really funny. There are some really funny gags in here, and then there's below illumination level of jokes too.
wow, below like
Yeah,
worse than Minions is what you're saying here.
worse than minion level jokes. Yep, hmm we'll get there.
Okay. But again, like the animation though, all of the pieces that have to take place for this kind of a scene with these
Yeah,
computer models to have this kind of, you know, I
yeah.
don't know, some of the backgrounds look so well animated they could be real. And some of the
Seriously, some of the
characters,
water stuff, like
yeah.
I'm like, did they just go back to multiplane? Are they layering actual water with animation over the top of it? I literally had that thought while I was watching it because it really, man, I'm going to say a lot of bad things about this movie, but I will not stop talking about how absolutely beautiful it is. Just
Yeah.
so well done. Everyone should be proud. They had to bring in like quadruple the amount of computing power that they use for any other one. It's crazy.
Well, but again, I mean, there you got the fire, which I'm sure is not easy to do, and then you've got like glass, and then you see like the dad cough here, and like
Yeah.
it's smoke, and I mean, all of it is really well done as far, and this is just the
Yeah.
fire part and not the water part
Yeah.
that's another big deal here. So, I again, animation, I can't like looking at say Toy Story to this and how far the animation has come.
Yeah.
However, that doesn't excuse you from not doing a great story. I mean, again, that's the thing with some of the stuff from Pixar in the past is it takes us to a new place. They're doing that.
Yep.
They're doing that. They're taking
Yep.
us to a new place, even if it's Zootopia. They're taking us to because that's Disney. That's not Pixar. We can do that. They're taking us to a new place, and then
Yeah.
we're learning a new world. But again, the rules to me are iffy on this one. The monster world in Monsters Inc.
Yep.
are very clear how that works. This
Yep.
one again, the rules are really kind of weird for me, but they try. One of the things though I noticed in watching, there are actually extras attached to this. I don't know if you watched any of those or not.
I always forget to do that. I mean to every single time and forget.
But see, that's a big deal to me because as a guy who
Yeah.
had every DVD Criterion whatever that ever came out because I love movies. I want to know the behind the scenes. I want to
Yeah.
watch the director's commentary and I want to see what did you leave out? What could this movie have been that it wasn't? Let me watch it first and then let me go back in and see what kind of things are not there. I love it when they do the extras because they had them for DVDs. Why wouldn't they have them for
Yep.
Netflix doesn't add them. I think it's one of the things that Disney Plus does well in adding these things. There are all of these deleted scenes. Usually it's like the trailer and that's it. But there are deleted scenes. But if you watch the deleted scenes, this movie was going in a completely different direction. And I kind of
As
actually
they often
like
are.
the direction it was going in. But this takes me back to The Good Dinosaur because I feel like The Good Dinosaur was going in a different direction, had a different director, had a different cast in most of the cast. And then they were like, wait, this doesn't feel right. Let's redo it. In this one, there was a villain. There was supposed to be a villain,
Oh.
and it was supposed to be
Huh.
the mom, Wade's mom.
Huh.
And the whole thing about there being
Interesting.
water everywhere was kind of like important to the whole we're trying to get rid of the fire people. We don't actually not necessarily we're
Wow.
getting not necessarily we're getting
Wow.
rid of them, but we don't care. Like progress, like our progress is going to move forward. We don't really care about them. There was another like there was a more of a rivalry between the dad and Ember, where in this one you were talking
We see
about
a little bit here and there.
you do and you don't though. She wants to make her dad proud, and this is a thing you don't. I don't think you see anymore. And Peter Sohn talks about this with his own life. Is he wanted to be an artist, and his family was like, no, you're going to inherit the store, and he
Yeah.
didn't want to do that. And I think anymore people don't like kids don't follow in their parents' footsteps as much as they used to. It was an expected thing. So for her to actually care that she wants to do that because her dad wants her to, I feel like shows them being more bonded than anything else. She didn't want to let him down, which is why when she messes up and she blows up and the pipes burst and then Wade comes in and then he finds all of these violations and he takes them to City Hall, she's devastated because this is her dad's store. She wants to do him proud. In this other version, they were at odds to so much to the point where she's into Wade kind of from the beginning and they're going to get married,
Huh.
and there's this other dude that her dad brings in from the fire country who's like jacked and like he's like you should hang out with this guy, and kind of have a fire dude instead of that, instead of Wade. So Wade had a ring in this one. Like there was a whole
Oh.
thing. So when you go back and you look at it, I go, I kind of want to see that movie. And maybe that's the reason they don't always include the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, Peter Sohn in the introduction says sometimes the movie takes you in a different direction, and you have to leave behind things that you worked on and built and love, and that's got to be hard, especially when they work this hard to do these. Now you talk.
I can't imagine having someone take away the story that I was trying to tell. There's a lot of times you hear about director's cuts, most famously the Snyder cut, obviously. Um, just changing the film and changing what the director's vision. When you're in film school, they always tell you the auteur style. Everything is somewhat autobiographical in some way, shape, or form. You're putting yourself into this, and it seems like Peter Sohn really wanted to put a lot of himself into it, and ended up telling a story with there's no teeth. There's very little conflict here. You're hoping to save the store, but if not, I think the family's going to be okay. I think the community would rally around them, and I think they would be fine. It's just the disappointing the father and not really knowing where she is. So I think in doing that, they lost the plot of this movie and made a very forgettable plot.
Yeah, no, I can. Well, is it forgettable or is it predictable?
It's kind of both. It's kind of both.
Okay.
There's not enough conflict. There's not enough. The ticking clock isn't there because they reset the clock twice. And even after the store gets wiped out by a flood, it comes back. So
Yeah.
this is another one of the things that a lot of people complain about with comic book movies is that there's not actually any stakes because the character is going to come back. You're going to get another one from another dimension, another timeline. They're going to come back. Nobody stays dead. The store comes back. The first solution didn't hold. The second solution didn't hold. The store got flooded. The store came back. So it's forgettable and it's predictable.
You know what's funny is you and I reviewed with Desi Alley Cat Strike, and one of the things I said
Yeah.
about that is there were too many stakes in that one. There's the
Yeah.
them
Okay.
trying to there's them trying to win that trophy so that they can be the better town, and then there's the dad's gonna lose his bowling alley. It's like pick one. Don't like what I mean. We don't have
Yeah.
enough
Yeah.
time in a movie like this to do this many stakes, and you didn't need to. Like the thing about his dad losing the bowling alley wasn't important to the story, and probably muddied it up a little bit. There are other things in a Pixar movie that I think are a big deal. Music is
Sure.
one, and I think from a
Yes.
soundtrack standpoint, from a score, I thought it was okay. The Love song,
Really.
"Steal the Show," the Love
Yeah.
song, like, and I'm a huge fan of Love. I like his music a lot. I Dude, this one's a bop for me. I'm
Oh my
like
God, it's
vibing
so
to it.
good.
Yeah, and I
I
think they
really
played it
dug the
twice.
score too. I thought
Okay,
the score was really well done as
it,
well.
it
The
didn't stand
music
out to
and the
me.
visuals, huh? But that song is man, it's good. It's good.
Yes.
You know what else that I think recently that got a bad rap that has a sneaky good score and soundtrack is I almost just wanted to call it Sisu, but that's not the name of the movie. Um, what is the name of that dragon movie?
Raya and the Last Dragon.
Raya. Raya the Last Dragon has a really good score and has a really fun soundtrack.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, there's something about Love's music in general that I like and vibe with, but this one I thought was really well done. And so the music, that song to me stood out, but I think the rest of it, like I think about Toy Story and I think about some of the other like Monsters Inc. and those, like that music stands out for me. This didn't stand out, and I'm glad it did for you. So that's
Yeah.
great, but like the score itself didn't stand out for me. The other thing is the cast. There's not a blockbuster cast for this one.
No.
I mean, we've
No.
got Catherine O'Hara.
In a
Love
small
Catherine
role.
O'Hara. She in a very
Yeah.
small role, but if the mom had been the villain, this would have been a much bigger role.
Oh, yeah.
Just
I mean,
putting
you
that
have
out there.
Wendy McClendon, Covey. She's awesome. She is
But
Gail.
that's a small role too.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's kind of a small role except for Ember and Wade, and I know the actor who plays Wade has gotten, his flowers recently and is really well respected, but I haven't really heard of him. And it didn't. Sometimes you want to know who the actor is, and I felt like he did a really good job of being the character rather than me trying to figure out who this person is.
Yeah. No, I get it. I don't know. I thought there would be a bigger cast for a Pixar movie anymore, but
And by the
usually
way,
like
the
go
person
ahead.
who did the score is Thomas Newman, and like that's a heavy hitter in scores. Like Spider-Man Across the Universe, A Man Called Otto, Avatar: The Way of Water. He's a musician in all of those, but he's been several composers. I mean, he's really just really good.
Uh, who sang Cars? That was Gary Newman. Never mind.
Yes, and Alfred E. Newman is Mad Magazine.
Yes, of course, of course, of course. All right. Hey, if you guys are watching, we're kind of like peeking into the chat here, so we appreciate you watching with us. This is our first live show of 2024. This is it. This is the
Of
first
the whole
big
network,
live
right?
on the whole network. Yeah. So
Yeah.
thank you guys for being with us. We appreciate it. And again, if you haven't already, please give us a like. Patrick, I'd like to bother you with a little bit of trivia. I'd like to bother you with a little bit of trivia. This is halfway through the show. I feel like that's what we should do. Is
I know
just a
that's where we
touch,
usually do it.
just a
Rob,
scotch,
I
just a scotch.
I have to tell you, I watched so hard for literally anything that could possibly be trivia, and I have nothing. I was wondering if you were going to do some of the storefronts, and I'm like, I don't remember that. I was like, there's a license plate on the back of this lumber truck. That's out of my head. So let's see how bad this is going to be.
By the way, A113, the
Yep.
hidden classroom from Caltech that they put in all of the Pixar movies, was in here as three different element blocks, and that's just something I looked at behind the
Oh.
scenes, which was interesting. So it doesn't actually say A113. You have to do the math in chemistry to figure out that it's A113. So
I'm
just
not here for school pick. Sorry,
no,
I
no,
didn't
no.
see the
Yeah,
Pizza
exactly.
Planet truck either. I was
It
looking
was a
for it. I didn't
boat.
see it.
It was a boat. It was
That
a
makes
boat that had a
sense.
rocket on the top, and then also Doug was hidden in here, and then also a poster for Elio, the next Pixar movie,
Yeah, I did
was
see that. I did
was
see
in there.
that. And no John Ratzenberg, so I wonder if they've had a falling out.
He hasn't been in the last few, I don't think.
He's in
So
Soul, and I believe he's in Luca. I'm not positive, but I know he's in Soul. He's in the subway scene.
okay.
All right,
Uh,
trivia me.
so in the movie, the the store that Bernie and Cinder have started
Mhm.
is called the Fireplace.
Yes.
Um, the Fireplace has uh, three different things underneath it, because we see this sign a
Not,
lot. Three different
not a
things that are sold
chance.
in the store. Three different things that are
Uh-huh.
sold in the store that they talk about um,
Yeah.
are on the sign. Can you name one of those things?
Cold nuts.
Coal nuts are on there. That's right.
Yeah.
Can you name
Uh,
either of the other two?
authentic candy. Authentic.
Authentic,
The
authentic
word
candy.
authentic on there.
Authentic
Uh,
candy. No,
yeah.
no.
No.
Lava Java.
Oh yes, I can see it so clearly in my mind's eye now. Yeah, 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 yeah.
And for some reason, wood snacks. So we have
Yeah,
wood
they have
snacks,
wood
lava
snacks.
java, and coal nuts. But coal nuts are the big
Yeah,
thing. That's the thing that they
yeah.
continually come back to in this one are the
Yep.
coal nuts.
Which are
So
crushed sticks,
they take a stick and they crush it, and then it's a coal nut. And then they
I
make Wade
guess.
eat them as if to punish him
Oh
for
god.
something.
In
Yeah, your
in
water eats
like
something that's on fire.
a scene out of an '80s sitcom or Along Came Polly. It's just, oh god, it's bad. It's bad. It made me angry. All right, what's
So,
the next trivia question? I'm
all right,
100% getting wrong.
you might not. You might not.
All right.
Speaking of like little jokes and things that they put in here with
Uh,
the air world, they play this game called Airball, and
mhm.
in it, it's the big championship, and it's between the two biggest teams in Airball, who are
Yep.
what? Who?
The
What are their names?
Windbreakers and the Crop Dusters.
That's right, because it's
Awful.
very juvenile.
That's the
It's very
below
juvenile.
illumination level joke. Terrible. If a minion said that, I'd be angry at the minion. It's horrible. Also, Zombie Nation was playing, and I was like, did the Boston Bruins just score a goal?
Apparently, also in that arena is a Flagstone Tires billboard, which is the tire the of cars. So if you're looking for a little,
Lending more credence to the ridiculous unified Pixar theory.
this should be pretty easy.
Okay.
Wade wants to meet Ember for a date. They're gonna go see a movie. What's the movie they go see?
Oh God, it's awful. Oh man, it is Tide and Prejudice.
Pride and Prejudice. That's right. Yeah. And by the way, in that scene when he's standing outside the door, apparently on the backside of like the entrance to the theater is a poster for the Good Element in the font of the Good Dinosaur. That's like Peter Sohn's like tribute to himself, I guess.
Yeah,
So that's
he probably shouldn't have. Because why would you remind me? Actually, Good Dinosaur is worse than this. I was gonna say, why would you remind me of a good film? But that's not.
interesting.
That's bad.
But again, I will say both of them visually stunning.
Mm, yeah.
In the airball arena, this is again another easy one. Who is the big player? Who's the big deal player? He's a little distracted.
Lots.
Lutz. We love
Lots. We
you,
love
Lutz.
you. Lots.
Yeah. And keeping in the theme of easy, what's the building number for Wade's apartment? Easy one.
H2O. H2O.
What? No. 212. Which, if I'm not mistaken, is that not the area code for New York? 212?
212 is the area code for New York. Yeah.
Yeah. There is a flower that
Yes.
from a young age
Yeah.
that Ember was
Yeah.
just infatuated with. What's the name of the
Yeah.
flower?
Don't remember, but that's a really sad story.
Yeah, we'll talk about it right
Zen,
after this.
Zo, Zen. Nope, not there.
Vivisteria. Vivisteria. Anyway,
Yeah,
yeah, so there's that. And then the final question, which is really easy, is what's the name of the building
Vivisteria.
where the Vivisteria lives in? What's the name of that building?
The subway tunnels.
But what's the name of
I
what's the name of
actually
it?
I don't know. Grand
Go,
Central Watering Station.
you had a couple names in there.
Yeah, none
Think
of them
really
are right.
cheesy. Garden Central Station. Garden Central Station. Yep. Thanks for
I
playing
hate it
along,
so
buddy.
much.
I know, I
No
know.
problem. I actually did a
But you,
lot better than I thought. I did a lot
yeah,
better than I thought.
yeah. So anyway, the so again, we've gotten into our situation is that Ember blows up and she kind of blows up the basement because she goes to just she's so angry she just has to vent. Which anger? Inside Out. Okay, so she just has to vent, and in doing so,
Uh
she
huh.
blows up the basement, and it causes all of these pipes to start to burst, including Wade coming in and writing her up, and then that's how they meet. But water infiltrating Firetown seems to be a common theme of a problem that's happening, and so there's like Element City is just flooded constantly. There's everything, the stuff coming off the train tracks, the just
Yep.
everything, and it's a problem. And by the way, does it ever rain in Element City?
Whoa. I don't know, man. Because if you go by like Pixar theory, this exists in like the microscopic form, and it's what's going on in the Earth while we're above the
She
Earth,
has an
and the
umbrella,
monsters.
but she has an umbrella that she uses to keep her safe from the water coming off the train track.
Yeah.
But so umbrellas exist. But like if you're fire, that's got to be like, I don't know, you got to like lock down like for COVID or something. If you're fire, I mean, you got to stay, shut in, quarantined. If there's rain. So, but again, there's water everywhere, and they figure out that there's like if they can trace where the water's coming from, then they can stop it, and the mayor, I guess, is that what she is? The woman who's in charge of the department,
Yeah,
will
I
lit
think
will
she's just
lit
public works.
will lit off these 47 violations. Which, by the way, you're gonna let 47 violations just pass? Like, how about you just tell them they need to fix them rather than just forgive them? I don't know.
As someone
So
who's undergone government inspections, like even if you have tiny violations and it's 47, they're going to ask you to fix those in addition to getting to the root cause of things, you know?
yeah, well, they didn't. Again, the rules are very iffy. So they track down the water and they decide they're going to plug it up, but they can't
Yep.
because Wade has somehow upset the public works folks, and so they're not going to come
He
help.
cemented them somehow.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
because they're not going to come help, then Ember has to basically create this wall of glass to keep the water in, and she does, and they forgive the things, and everything's great until the water
It's not
cracks.
until it's not. It's comic book logic. The hero is weak enough until he's not.
But
That's
here's the thing, though. If you sent this public works person down who's such a stickler for 47 violations, and she looks at it and goes, tempered glass, she was mad at him first for using glass to cover it up, and then she was like, no, it's tempered glass, it's okay. Why don't you say to yourself at that point, did my people do this? Oh, the public works people didn't do this? Why didn't they do this? Because they're mad at Wade? You guys are so petty that you're not going to get this fixed, and so we're just going to keep it a temporary band-aid? Like, her inspecting it herself, she should have said, you know what, this is fine temporarily, but let's go on the inside of this wall and build a new wall, and then we'll tear down this glass thing, and it'll all be shored up. But no, she doesn't do that, and it seems very flimsy.
yep, crumbling infrastructure and generational trauma. The real villains.
The real villains. But
Mm-hmm.
that leads up to the point where I think you were going, which is during this in between time,
Uh-huh.
because Ember helped save the day, and because she wanted to see this very rare flower, this Vivisteria, that was such a big deal flower that they had to protect it from fire people coming in that may get
Yeah.
burned.
Horrible,
The,
horrible
the
story. Like
but the
that
metro
really touched
station
me.
but the metro station was then flooded,
Yep.
and they just left it. This was such an important thing to you, but you're just going to let it get flooded and left, which again seems to me to be that rotting infrastructure you're talking about. But like, you're not going to do anything to fix this. Like, I feel like if that happened in, say, oh, I don't know, Chicago, is like the most important thing there was on display, but then the place got flooded, that they would fix that. I feel like there's got to be a way to fix that, but they don't. And so instead, they take her on a journey in a large bubble. They take fire and they put it in this large bubble and they submerge it in in an endless sea of water for her to see this flower
Right.
at her own peril.
Correct.
I don't like it.
I got nothing on that. I was really moved by the very sad story of the poor fire girl not being able to see something she really wanted to see. It was super heartbreaking. The unnecessary drama that's built up by this, that it sounded like Sonic slowly dying on a water level, that she needed to be rushed up to the surface. I don't know. I guess it shows Wade's devotion. It just, it's added plot for very little reason.
Okay. Well, the other thing that I think of when I see that is that they were closer to this entrance than the main entrance. So why didn't they just
Point.
come in this way
Good point.
anyway?
Yeah.
Clearly,
Yeah.
he could. It took him. She had 20. Somebody did the math that there's 20 minutes of air in this thing. I don't know how you figured that out when the way she made the bubble was to hold the water open and blow. I don't know how. She's like, that's about 20 minutes. Go ahead. And she puts her in the bubble, and then she goes into the thing, and he takes the long way? I don't know.
Scenic route. Scenic
Yeah.
route.
So, yeah, so she goes in and she's excited, but I think it is, you were talking about a clock. This is the only time where we see danger, really.
Yep.
And then maybe when the water crashes in the second time, I guess that's the other time we
Yeah.
actually see danger. But when that happens, she is in the shop. She's decided Wade's family said, "Hey, you're really great at blowing glass and burning things into glass, and that's a big deal in this town, and you could really be going places. You shouldn't be bothering yourself in with your dad's business. You should be doing this." And so she's kind of troubled here, but she's not really. Like, she's not really pulled to do the glass thing. She still feels like she should be the heir apparent to the store. So again, there's not a pull there.
Yeah.
And then they think they can't be together, but then they touch and they go like, "Oh, we can make this work." So again, there's nothing, no real problem there. And then she, like, the whole thing starts to get flooded, and she wants to protect the store, protect the flame, and all that. And then he comes to help her, and then apparently dies, but not really. Like, that's the other thing too, that I'm like, what are the rules? In theory, he should be gone. Like, does he have
Or he should be
nerve endings?
new gas Wade, right?
Right.
Because he just boiled. He would have just became gas. I don't know, man. This seems overly over. Overly over. It's over the top.
Yeah. Well, the other problem, and
Look
again,
at
gorgeous,
how beautiful that is.
gorgeous.
If
Yeah,
there was
gorgeous.
only a movie that went along with this image.
So yeah. So again, like, they're great, and it's the whole, like you said, the West Side Story and all that kind of stuff. But here's the other thing, as far as rules go, is clothes. Like Donald, shirt no pants, Mickey, pants no shirt. In this one, Wade has a shirt but no pants. Her dad, has pants and no shirt. What are the rules? Like, I get with Mickey and
I
Donald,
don't know,
maybe you
man.
started off like, but I mean, there should be some consistency, some continuity, no?
Yeah, no, you know what? Out of all the things that I have to critique, that is not something I noticed. I will say I was really struck by how pretty all her dresses were. I thought she was always looked like well dressed. It's weird to
Yeah.
say about an animated movie, but the character was always looking her best, you know?
It was like a chainmail situation that she was wearing, which
Yeah,
again,
yeah, yeah.
I thought
That's
made
cool.
sense because
Yeah.
she's fire, that it may have to
Her
be
her
something that
dad's
I don't know
character
would burn.
design reminded me of my friend's dad who recently passed. So I got a lot of joy in seeing him. Even his outfit he was wearing reminded me a lot of him.
Yeah. Here's another thing again with the clothes is they're like the air people wear clothes too.
Uh-huh.
And as she's running through the town and she blows through, she hits this guy right here, and he gets blown up, and then he doesn't have his clothes on, and he's like, ah, my clothes. I mean, I don't know. It just
Yeah,
seems a little
I don't know.
the clothes seems a little weird to me. But
Yeah,
here's another
it
thing about
seems
the rules.
excessive.
Here's
Yeah,
another
we
thing about
don't
the
know the
rules.
rules.
She
Yeah.
wears this dress, and again, we could think it's made of something that's not going to burn, but she holds paper. But then sometimes she burns paper. Like, can it be one of those things like a ghost where sometimes they can push the wall and sometimes they can go through the wall, or I don't know. It's just the rules. The
Here's
rules, dude. Explain the
here's the
rules,
thing. No, because here's the thing, and I'm going to bring it full circle, is
please
that
do.
if this was a better movie, you wouldn't care about stuff like this because you'd be lost in the story.
Interesting.
Yeah. If there was more story to get yourself involved in, you don't have your brain wandering and you're like, well, why does this person wear clothes and this person doesn't? Why do they have shirts and tops? You don't really think about that when you're focusing on like a really good plot or a really good, compelling story.
But by the way, here's your scene where he's like, "Well, then you're really gonna hate this," and then he goes right by her.
Yeah, no, I love that. There were some moments that I got a really good laugh. Like I thought some of the more well thought out jokes and well thought out visual gags were great, but oftentimes they went for the low hanging fruit. Which what the heck was that pruning scene about? Nothing weird going on here, just some pruning.
Just
Like,
some
why is this
pruning.
even here? What are you doing? Is this adult? Are we? Ah, throw out the whole movie. Start over.
Well, they kind of did. Like I said,
Oh
there was
yeah.
another path for this movie to go, and they kind of did. What else do you want to talk about
That
before we
is,
wrap this up, buddy?
that's for Disney. That's worked out exactly one time, and how it worked out is a miracle. The fact that
Frozen?
Emperor's New Groove is remotely
Oh,
watchable is amazing. That it went from this very serious,
Kingdom of the
austere
Sun.
Oscar bait film to this dumb, goofy comedy that has withstood the test of time. Every other time, it's been when it gets bogged down in rewrites, it just it doesn't work.
I feel like
You should just be like
Frozen.
WB, just
I feel
cancel
like
it. Oh, there
Frozen.
you go. Yeah,
Yeah,
Frozen.
Frozen was not what
Good call.
was
Good
intended
call.
to be, but yeah,
Right.
there's a lot of it. But okay, so anything else you want to talk about before we do final say on this one? I mean, I guess like again, I feel like we've been beating it up a lot,
Yeah.
but at the same time, you're like, yeah, that's about right. But
Yep. Nope.
again,
Deserves it.
like we talk about with Six Flags, is a Disney Parks
That's the
problem
problem.
is a Disney Parks problem even at its lowest better than Six Flags? Is a Pixar movie that's not perfect still better than Illumination?
No, it's not anymore. It's
Okay.
really not. The race has become so close that you need to make a good Pixar movie and you need to put the proper promotional force behind it. There is no reason Turning Red is shouldn't be one of the biggest films. No reason. That should have
It's
been in the
unique.
box
It's
office.
yeah.
It Did you see what Trolls World Tour did? It's the same concept. There's no reason that we shouldn't have been promoting how big of a star Jordan Fisher is. And like
Did you just
they've
compare Jordan
dropped
Fisher to Justin Timberlake and NSYNC?
I mean, yeah, sure. Jordan Fisher is very talented.
Okay, no,
Jordan
just
Fisher
asking.
hasn't had to go on an apology tour recently, so he's doing a little bit better.
Oh, cry me a river.
No offense, uh, but like you when you have it, they drop the ball, and I think, man, it really goes back to John Carter for me. Is that there's people in business in the Walt Disney Company that are business people that don't know what's good. They don't know what they should be doing. There's a lot of yes people. There's a lot of people who come from, Ivy League schools and who have had, worked at Ernst and Young and all these other firms, but they're not creatives. And I think that's when you see when the creatives take hold of the projects, that's when you see the Mandalorian. That's when you see, What If. That's when you see Loki, because you're letting these creatives have their way and you're giving them what they need to be successful. I think that's where a lot of things fail, is that the people in charge don't know.
Yep. Rosita said you guys are beating up this movie because I admitted that. I said, like, we've been kind
Yeah,
of beating this
definitely.
movie up. She said you're beating up this movie, and I enjoyed it. And again, there's a lot of things that I enjoy that I wouldn't necessarily recommend, but
Definitely.
but I mean, yeah, we'll wrap this up in a second. Anything else you want to talk about before we get there?
No, I'm good. Let's do
What?
it.
Well, let's talk about this before you give the final judgment. Is that you
Sure.
were talking about the theme parks, and again, a lot of times we'll try to
Yeah.
tie this into the
Yeah.
theme parks, and normally it'll be here's what we have from this movie in the theme parks. We haven't gotten there with turning. I mean, with Elemental. There. By the way, Elemental and Eternals came out way too close together to each other. I'm just throwing that out there to come out from the same company. But the opening to World of Color, they put an Elemental tag on the front
Yeah.
of it. But other than that, there really wasn't anything that came of this. I think there was a popcorn bucket that actually, or a sipper one that I didn't get. It was like a
Whoa.
combination
Are
weird.
you
I know.
okay?
I'm not
You
okay now that I'm
survived?
thinking about it. Now that I'm thinking about
Now
it,
that
I'm
I
a little
have to go
angry.
back, let me see those eBay listings.
I'm a little angry, actually,
Um,
if I'm being honest. But again, I
I
mean,
think
what were you saying you thought would be a possibility here?
I think if this was a better movie, there would have been a chance that The Way of Water could have featured this. If this was a better movie, there's chances for it at Epcot. There's chances for it in that Beyond area. Do you know where this would do really well, though? How about on a cruise ship? How about the next aqueduct is that train through Element City? It's picture perfect for theme park usage. It's just it's not good enough to be there. It's not going to have the staying power. I think that this will become one of those movies that when you hear it pop up in a fireworks show later on, you're going to love that song. You'll be like, huh, what is this from? And you'll be like, Hunchback of Notre Dame, that's a garbage movie. I guess this is an okay song, though.
A
Oh,
garbage
yeah.
movie.
Oh, yeah. Trash.
Mm,
Trash. One of
mm,
Disney's worst.
I don't. Okay. So here's the thing. It was a sipper, and it was a reversible sipper, so it was weighed on one side. Like we didn't even put
That's
enough money
awful.
into this.
That
We
is
didn't even put
awful.
enough money into this to
That
say,
is one of the
let's
worst
do
things I've ever seen.
one that's weighed and one that's ember. No, no, it's
Ugh.
a reversible sipper. So yeah,
Oh
I
my
don't know.
god. Oh.
Yeah. So there's a thing, and again, I don't have that one. I'm not sure. Now that I'm looking at it, that maybe that I wanted it. Maybe that was the problem. But yeah, it's a thing. Um, so before we give final thoughts, I want to say thank you to all of our people watching. We appreciate you. Please make sure to go back and watch some of our last Deep in the Plus. A lot of the three were all Christmas related, but they were fun. And then here's what we've got coming up: is we are doing Elemental tonight. Next week, Desi and I are doing a Star Wars TV ranking, and then the
Sure, that
week
should go
after that
fine.
is is Mrs. Doubtfire, and then the following week we're gonna do Dumbo, the 1941 animated. Again, this was not my choice because I do not like sad movies, but my good friend Maleka was like, "That's the one I want to do," and I'm like, "Well, I made you do Lilo and Stitch and Moana, so whatever you want to do after that, we're fine."
Oh
So
boy.
he's chosen Dumbo, but Dumbo is just so sad. But yeah, the Star Wars TV ranking, she and I have been having conversations about that one because, like the Clone Wars, Clone Wars season 7 was original. We're just doing original, like you and I did with Marvel.
Yep.
We're just doing original
Original
Star
Disney Plus
Wars
shows. Yeah.
for Disney Plus. Season 7 was original, but season 1 through 6 weren't. So, do you think it counts?
I say you have to just judge it on season 7, and you can use kind of like what was set up beforehand. That's you found the one of the only pieces of Star Wars media that I have not watched. I've
Clone
only
Wars
seen bits
or
and pieces of Clone Wars.
I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, thanks to our WIGS members, our WDWNT Interglobe Society. That is our Patreon. If you are not familiar with that, you can go to patreon.com/WDWNT to find out more of how to be part of the family, but we love our WIGs. And then also this
Thanks.
Sunday night, we're going to be doing Park Center will be back for its first live show of 2024. But if you go back, the most recent episode was episode 250 of Park Center. Go back and watch that. That
Woo!
was our year end. We talked about, the stuff from 2023. Our next show, we'll probably talk about what's coming 2024. That's how we do. So thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you. And now, Patrick, man, I feel like I know this already, but
Yeah,
keep
I
in
feel like we
mind,
should all kind of know where this is
keep in
going.
mind though that Rosita likes this movie. And also,
Yep.
there are other people who like this movie.
She
So
didn't
be
hit us with the
kind.
super chat though. She didn't hit us with the
Ooh,
super chat. The super chat
oh,
queen did not. So I am free to
good point.
go as
Okay.
hard on Elemental as I would like.
Love you, Rosita. Okay, so here's the thing, though. Here's the thing, though. It is
Yeah.
a Pixar movie,
Yep.
and it did actually have a resurgence at the box office. It was
Yep.
started off slow, and then
Yep.
by word of mouth came up and had a
Yep.
resurgence. So my question to you is, Patrick Hackett, would you
Yeah.
recommend this movie?
No, please don't watch this. It's so beautiful. The music is so good, but it's just bad. It's a bad movie. It's direct to video quality movie. There's not a lot of story there. Maybe the plot got lost and many rewrites, and maybe it got yes to death, and it's not the level of Pixar. That being said, I don't think it's as bad as some of the bad Pixar movies. Like, I really didn't care for Soul. I don't care for The Good Dinosaur. I don't think it's bad. I just don't think it's of the Pixar quality. And I think we strive for more from Pixar. If you really want to support Pixar, go to the box office. Go see Turning Red. Those songs, Four Town, with the sound system pumping, you're going to love it. It's a great movie. Go see Turning Red when it comes out.
You know what, Patrick? I'm gonna actually throw you and say that I'd still recommend this movie. You
Really?
said
Oh,
it's
okay.
below Illumination. I would watch this before I'd watch a Minions. I mean, honestly, like, and there's nothing wrong if you love Minions movies, and they made a whole Minions land out of it. I'm not sure I get that. I wouldn't put this at the very bottom. I think there are a lot of other things I would not rewatch from Pixar. Um, but I think that said, it is very much missing a lot of the elements of a great Pixar movie, and I think that
Yeah.
it's not what it could have been. That's why I'm upset. Is that I saw those behind the scenes clips of what it could have been, and it wasn't that. And so I feel like I'm a little bit more jaded now, knowing that my eyes have been opened. So there are a lot of things on Disney Plus that I wouldn't recommend. I love Tron, and I've said this over and over again. The 1982 Tron is not one I would recommend to people because I love it, but I also understand that it was in 1982 and it doesn't necessarily hold up. But this one you mentioned is beautiful. You
Yep.
love the score. I love the love
Yep.
song. I think it's great.
It's really
So,
good.
in watching it again, I'm glad I watched it again. Would I watch it like 3 or 4 more times? Maybe not. But it is not the worst Pixar movie that's out there. And you mentioned a couple that you think are much worse than this one. So,
Yeah.
and I saw in the chat a lot of people saying things about Luca and not loving that one. And I know you have feelings on Luca,
Yeah.
and then also some of the others. But like for me, Soul was okay. It was okay, but but there's so much Soul stuff. Like why? Like I don't know. It's so it this one to me is not the worst one. I would recommend it if you haven't seen it. I'm not sure I'd say you should recommend watch it 3 or 4 more times. Um, but yeah. The other thing is, as you mentioned, the pruning scene, like where they're like, oh, nothing weird going on here. We're just pruning. I have no idea what was happening there, but maybe
What is
someday
that? There serves no
someone can explain it to
purpose.
me. I don't know. I don't know.
And somebody did mention in the chat, is Thomas Newman, the award-winning scorer of this and Wall-E, Cinderella Man, really just a fantastic orchestrator. Is he related to Randy Newman, And he is. It is his cousin, and they hold a Guinness World Record. The Newman family has the most Academy Award nominations for a family. So I just read that. I thought that was pretty great. And Thomas Newman does a great job. Beautiful picture. I think what we're saying that it's lower quality. That's why we're like, we don't recommend it. But what really bothers me is if this had a good story, if this was well written, this is a smash. This is an absolute smash because it's beautiful, it's well made. There's care in the character design. There's just not care in the story.
Yeah. But again, I mean, it has it has the trajectory of Zootopia without the surprise villain.
Mm.
Like, I mean, again, and there's a little more love story in this than there's not a love story per se in. I mean, they just become friends in Zootopia, which is great. That's the only difference. But the rest of it, the inside jokes, the whole city, built for this. I don't know.
The bad
I
jokes
feel like it would
hit
be.
there better in Zootopia because it's a better movie around it, and the groans are earned instead of groaning because it's groan worthy. You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah,
intent is to make you groan. Um, so like the sloths at the DMV would would be terrible in a movie like this because it's not. It didn't earn them.
it didn't earn it. Yeah. Well,
Yep.
it's like I always say, try everything. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you. Happy New Year. Thanks for going and
Happy
jumping
New
deep in the
Year.
plus here, and
Always.
I can't wait to see what things we talk about next. And again, if you guys have strong feelings about Elemental, once this thing's over, go into the chat at the below and just tell us what you think. If you loved it, I'd love to hear why. If you didn't love it, tell us about that too. And hopefully you'll join us for Park Center on Sunday and join us next week for another Deep in the Plus. Have a great week, guys. So we'll see you next time.
Bye.